The reason why it is so important to make the distinction that Nara Smith, Ballerina Farm, Emily Mariko are not trad wives, that they are just rich, is so that we can move on to the next conversations. Okay, like what does it say about us as individuals that we are pining over happy homemaking content? What does it say about us as a society that we are classifying grocery hauls as luxury purchases? Okay, it didn't used to be this way. And things are changing, and if there's anything I learned about when things change, it's that we need community more than ever. Hey, bestie. Welcome to the Spoiled Girly Support Group podcast, where we talk about how to get that bag while also securing your own bag. I'm your host, Elle, and let's get into it. On today's episode, we are talking about how Nara Smith, Ballerina Farm's Emily Mariko are not trad wives. They're just rich. They are educated, professional, rich women who found the performance of domesticity, aka doing housework, women's work, to be the highest and best use of their time and skills, thus exposing the value of women's labor in general. And now that we have established that, let's talk about how the popularity of these influencers highlights how we are living in a literal dystopia. And just to be clear, we have always lived in a dystopia of some flavor or another, but the rise of these influencers signaled that we are entering a brand new version of a dystopia. A dystopia where, despite the rise of automation via AI, we are working more hours than ever to afford basic necessities due to inflation. Plenty of us are living in side hustle hell, thus making time a commodity. A commodity we have to sell a lot of to survive. A dystopia where food, despite an abundance of it, has become so expensive due to inflation that a full grocery haul has become a luxury. And instead of getting it for ourselves, we watch influencers get it, like we're living vicariously through others. And without an excess or even an adequate amount of time and or food, we are now living in a dystopia where health has become a luxury, an inconspicuous signal of wealth. And okay, like why are we even talking about this? Like, is this a spoiled girly topic? Yes, it is. Okay, yes, it is. The vibe is giving each other as much privilege as we can as we transition into this new version of dystopia that we are going to be living in. Okay, so bottom line is we need to look out for each other by giving each other as much privilege as we can. We have a lot to cover, but before we get into it, I need you to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you never miss a Spoiled Girly episode. With that being said, let's get into it.
What do Nara Smith, Emily Mariko, and Ballerina Farm all have in common? Instead of using their wealth to tout a lavish life of material abundance like we're used to most influencers doing, they instead portray a different type of affluence. Quality food, the time to cook from scratch, health. Historically, online wealth signaling has been used to show the masses, us consumers, what they can't have. Can't have my layers of Van Cleef necklaces or Hermes Birkin. Can't live in LA with an 8-figure mansion. We devoured content from people with clout. And so the public started spending money on designer to mimic the coolness of their favorite celebrities. We included ourselves in what was meant to be exclusive. But then Jeffree Star moved to Wyoming to tend to yaks. Kim Kardashian is flexing an abundance of fresh fruit that's out of season on her story. Major personalities with massive influence over us started switching what they show off. Now we see the rise of influencers who flex a healthy lifestyle, wholesome food, a work-life balance, a new kind of exclusive lifestyle that most of us can't achieve. This isn't a ploy to get more viewers by being relatable, because it is in fact not relatable. We enviously watch Nara Smith's videos knowing that we would never have the time to make homemade cereal. Emily Mariko's farmers market hauls are tantalizingly out of touch because that amount of fresh produce would cost a fortune. The new wave of internet flexing is a healthy lifestyle, and I feel that's much more dystopian than a Ferrari.
Now, I will not tolerate any Nara Smith slander here, okay? I love Nara. You know how someone is peace incarnate? Like, I feel a wave of peace wash over me whenever I watch her content. Like, the vibes are great and, like, I'm here for it, okay? And I don't really watch much of Ballerina Farm and Emily Mariko. Like, Nara's more my vibe. But honestly, the vibe today is not a critique of these influencers as individuals, but more so a critique of what their popularity reveals about our current society, okay? Like, we're kind of doing a bigger picture view today. And I've been telling you, okay, celebrities, content creators, commentators are a mirror to society. When someone gets really viral, gets really popular, it's because they reflect the values of the time or the changing values of the time. AKA, what are people valuing at this moment in time? What are they about? What are their deepest, darkest desires? And what do they not have in real life that they feel the need to consume it online, if only to fantasize about it, if only to watch it virtually, if only to live vicariously through others? In short, Nara Smith, Ballerina Farm, and Emily Mariko, these content creators, they mirror what a lot of us are missing in our real lives, what a lot of us are yearning for. And apparently, that's a peaceful home, a peaceful existence, an abundance of food, and time to make it from scratch. Now, let's get into the comments.
Health is the ultimate wealth.
I wouldn't say this is anything new. Health has always been a function of wealth. Like when you have wealth, you can afford the best housing with the best airflow, the best water source, the best views, the best doctors and care providers, the best food and medication. Health has always been tied to wealth. Like this is nothing new. Speaking of wealth, let's talk about today's sponsor. Rocket Money. Inflation is affecting everyone right now, so cutting down on unnecessary expenses or negotiating bills, anything to lower your monthly expenses absolutely helps. Well, today's sponsor, Rocket Money, is here to help. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and manage your money better. I'm using Rocket Money to cancel unwanted subscriptions. It safely and securely identifies recurring charges and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you. You can even cancel from within the app with just a couple of taps. No need to worry about customer service calls. I'm also using Rocket Money to lower my bills simply by uploading a photo of your bill and tapping a few buttons. Rocket Money will negotiate your bills for you, from internet service to cable and phone bills. Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 a year when they use all the features, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/manifestelle or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/manifestelle to get started for free. Now back to the topic. Let's get into more comments.
I love Nara Smith. People aren't mad she cooks from scratch. They're having a dialogue on what that wealth enables moms to do. As a mom, I don't think people realize how much time and energy goes into this lifestyle or everything made from scratch while never getting a stain on your clothing and being a mother. They have help. Whether that is a spouse, nanny, etc., they have help and it's important.
I really think that we all need a crash course on media literacy, because from the beginning, I knew that Nara had help. Like, she has a career. Like, we're literally watching her work in her TikTok videos. That's work, that's labor. It's not giving trad, it's giving career mom.
I saw someone talk about how that food would be what rich people will start to use to differentiate themselves from us as things grow in price.
As we talked about in this class, the higher classes will always want to differentiate themselves from the classes below them. There is a top-down, trickle-down manner of trends in signaling. The upper classes start a trend and it trickles down from the top down to the lower classes. And then when the trend is quote-unquote fully saturated, the upper classes get the ick and then they start a new trend. Okay, and then the cycle goes on and on and on and on. This is nothing new. This has happened forever. Anyway, back to that comment. It's crazy how literal food, a grocery haul, has become the differentiating factor between the classes when we're living in such a time of abundance. I don't think a lot of us grasp just how good we have gotten at making and growing and manufacturing food. Okay, like we have too much. So why is food still a form of class signaling? I don't know. Let's get into another comment.
The fact that in this society it's more attainable to have luxury brand bags or clothes than fresh produce and time is so sad.
Like with the rise of dupes, dupe culture, replica culture, DH fence culture, luxury material goods have taken a back seat in terms of class signaling now that these goods have become affordable. So now the upper classes, like I said, they get the ick, okay? So now the upper classes signal via food and time, which is crazy because we actually need those things. Like, I can live without my designer items, okay? But fresh food and time, okay? TBH.
Though eating at home is much cheaper. She's spending less or the same but eating healthier. So, plus learning to meal prep is a game changer. Now I'm poor, cook from scratch, I don't watch TV. Make sense?
I've been reading a lot of these comments, and honestly, two things can be true at the same time. People can have literally no free time to cook from scratch and make their own food because they are selling so much of their time in exchange for money, which is survival in today's world. They may have the time, but they no longer have the physical and the mental energy because they sold so much of their time. So whatever little personal time they have, it's not as high quality as the time that they sold. Also, there's things that happen when you work a lot. It's called revenge spending. It's spending as a form of revenge against the system or yourself. You spent a lot on delivery or eating out because you deserve it. There's so many things going on, like we can't really judge. But also, people can be poor and still cook from scratch because there's literally no other way. So I've been making my own sourdough for months now, and I can attest to how much cheaper it is to make your own bread versus buying it at the store. Like, I haven't run the numbers on the cost of gas and my labor and all that. Like, who actually calculates that? Okay? I don't. But purely from the cost of ingredients, hands down, it is a lot more cost effective. And I've been cooking all my life. Food is a big part of my identity and it's my love language. And I can also attest to how it is so much more cost efficient than eating out or delivery. Okay? Plus, I can control what goes into my food. So I'm able to optimize my diet to maximize enjoyment and reach my health goals if I have any. And we will get into this subtopic in a little bit about how knowing what to cook and how to cook is a privilege not everyone has, especially a privilege that a lot of Western women don't have. So stay tuned. Anyway, there's a trade-off that happens when you spend your time sourcing affordable fresh food, fresh produce, cooking from scratch, penny pinching. Like all that time could have been spent just making more money. Then you'll have more money, process non-fresh food, and maybe a little bit of savings. And people make this trade-off by the millions. And for a lot of people, this trade-off was only supposed to be temporary, okay? So a lot of us, we work towards a state of nirvana where we don't work as much because our time is worth more so we can get away with selling less of it. We have an excess of time to make food from scratch, and in return, we are rewarded with better health and status. And we still have an excess money by the end of it. Like that is the utopia, right? Like in a perfect world, that's what would happen to a lot of us. But as we are seeing right now, it is quite rare for people to have that. And because it is quite rare, people eat it up on social media. Okay, we have talked about this so many times. Like, what is an outlier is what will go viral because we don't see it in real life. So the fact that these people are making content and going viral for, let's say, it's mundane content like cooking at home. And the fact that that is going viral, like literally cooking from scratch, it is signaling that that is unachievable for a lot of people. Okay, like you wouldn't be watching content on things that you do every day. You're going to be watching content on things that you aspire to, okay? Things that trigger a yearning in you. So that's the state of the world today. Back to the topic, two things can be true at the same time. Food from scratch can be cheaper, but not everyone can afford the time that makes food from scratch cheaper, okay? So as a response to these two comments, listen to this.
I think what's twisted is it's out of reach but seems achievable if you just worked harder or prioritized more.
I know what it's like. Okay? Life hasn't always been perfect for me. I know, I'm a lucky girl, but sometimes, you know what, we get unlucky moments. And if you've been watching for a while, you know I've been making videos on how to make certain mindset shifts to keep yourself in abundance and optimism because I've been there. Okay? So no one can tell me anything. So I'm not saying this from a pedestal, like looking down on people. I'm saying this as a peer. It's knowing how to strategize despite having a lack of time, a lack of money, and a lack of energy. It's a matter of knowing where the cheapest groceries are. It's a matter of knowing how to balance your macronutrients, your carbs, fat, and protein, balancing your micronutrients, all the vitamins and minerals. It's a matter of having the privilege of knowing. And where do we get this privilege of knowing? Higher education, independent study, access to health professionals, fitness professionals, friends and family to ask for advice. Like it's layers and layers upon layers of privilege. And it's no wonder why obesity and being overweight has become the marker of the lower classes. So much so that the upper classes who got the ick and now they want to differentiate themselves from the lower classes, they're taking diabetes medication to get thinner and thinner and thinner. All this to say that even though we cannot gift other people around us money because it's a finite resource, we can gift each other the privilege of knowing, okay? We can tell each other the ways that we strategize in the world we move around in. We can share with each other the tools that we use to save money, to find the best deals, to maximize dollars where it will go the farthest. Like all of these things, we can give each other the privilege of knowing, okay? And this video isn't to like fearmonger you that like, oh, the world is ending. No, the world is just changing and it's always gonna change. So I would love for all of us to open our eyes and see that the world is changing once again. And the best thing that we can do is give each other the privilege of knowing, okay? So if you have recommendations, share them. Like literally, we need to create a community of girlies who are rooting for each other, okay? It's the only way. Someone said,
It's giving Marie Antoinette's Petit Trianon.
I was waiting for someone to bring this up, and yeah, this is exactly what it's giving. Basically, Marie Antoinette, the let them eat cake queen of France at the time, not for a long time, but just for a time, she had a small faux peasant village built so that she could cosplay the peasants. And okay, like why? Like why do rich people do that? Okay, it's self-preservation so you don't get eaten, so you don't get mistaken for cake, and a bunch of other things.
At a period of perpetually growing income inequality worldwide, the rise of blue-collar cosplay in the high fashion market begs a larger question. Is the goal of the fashion industry to fabricate authenticity or glamorize poverty for the wealthy and elite? Historically speaking, the wealthy have dressed down during periods of vast income and wealth inequality, primarily as an attempt to blend in with the crowds. Even Marie Antoinette, known for her extravagant costumes and lavish hairstyles, went so far as to simplify her wardrobe. She idealized a simple life away from the stress of the French court, conceivably even running off to her faux rustic village, Hameau de la Reine, at Versailles, where she would dress in peasant clothing and pretend to be a milkmaid.
That's why, okay? I was reading this book, Billionaire Wilderness, and the author and academic, he set off to interview multimillionaires and billionaires moving to Jackson Hole or have been living in Jackson Hole in search of a more rustic, down-to-earth lifestyle. He writes,
Burdened by social stigmas, status anxiety, and feelings of inauthenticity or guilt, the ultra-wealthy use nature and rural people as a vehicle for personal transformation, creating versions of themselves they view as more authentic, virtuous, and community-minded. Wealthy folks' outward performance of this social conversion includes friendships with money-less people, sacred experiences enjoyed in untouched nature, professed environmental concern, appropriation of frontier art and style of dress, and love of bygone small-town character. By living in such rural and nature-oriented communities, they are literally buying into the idea and experience of a primordial America that offers salvation from the careerist rat race and the moral temptations of high society where life is simpler and the honest rural values of the dusty cowboy, noble native, and nature-loving bohemian prevail.
but on top of all of that, they also get to invest in prime real estate to build equity while participating in the great outdoors. Also, environmental conservation, who?
Ironically, environmental conservation becomes an engine for multiplying wealth and gaining social prestige for wealthy people and wealthy institutions.
Long story short, there's a lot of benefits for the wealthy to blend in with the lower classes as long as they're able to signal to those who share their class their real status. Okay, so basically, cosplaying poverty keeps you safe, but also it still is a way to elevate your own moral perception of yourself and the perception of your morals by others. I love that. Moving on, let's talk about how it's so odd that time is still a differentiating factor between the classes when technology was supposed to give us back our time via automation.
I just saw a video of a creator talking about how some people, specifically Emily Mariko, but I'll use it in a broader sense, of these influencers that have wealthy families, great resumes, went to great schools, have all of the resources at their fingertips, and yet they are building a life and wealth with creating content and videoing themselves like at home, having children, cooking meals, I'd say arguably like mediocre meals. And under like the realm of social media, and like that's the type of content that's being grasped nowadays. And I want to take that idea a step further, where it's the conversation around AI and how people are saying like AI should be taking the manual labor job, should be the ones stacking and pushing packages around at Amazon. But instead, they're using AI to create video, to create scripts, like to create art, where humans should be the ones creating the art. And tying that in with like the content creators and like this trad wife aesthetic is that the people that have the resources, that have the resumes, that went to the good schools, that have by definition the easy access to go into the job market, they're the same people that are using all of those resources and then marketing it to people that don't have those resources to go, look, I have the time, I have the privilege to cook, to clean, to have as many children as I want because I'll be able to feed them, clothe them. Like I don't have to worry about those issues, where the people that are doing the manual labor, that are doing the hard work in this country and around the world, don't have the luxury to live a life that's full of cooking nutritious meals, spending time with their children, being at home, decorating their home, like things that average human beings should be able to do under capitalism. Where it's instead we're only allowing or we're only seeing the wealthy being able to do that and just like kind of glorifying it and like in a gluttonous way of showing it in our faces, where in the realm of technology and data and this like evolving economy with technology, AI, with whatever, we were promised a future where we didn't have to work as hard. We didn't have to be so in the office and having to commute hours on end in our cars to go into these workplaces, where we're seeing like people like talking about like the going away of work from home, where it's like we've learned nothing from, if anything, they've used language, media, influence to take that away and be like, oh, like you could have had this, we could have had 4-day work weeks, we could have had higher minimum wages, we could have had just better. And I think like it's just the juxtaposition between things that were created to better us, like it's people that have the luxuries to skip steps. And I think like it's this idea of like the trad wife being pushed, or the use of AI to literally push people into labor, into work that doesn't need to happen. Like it's like a lot of this being productive energy and going to work and doing stuff. It's like people talking about how like work has evolved and changed and it doesn't feel like we're really doing anything productive. And it's arguably like we're really not. Like the humans should be the ones producing the art, writing the books, painting, creating movies, like creating music. And in doing that, having families, loving life, enjoying things. But we're going so far down the deep end where only the rich are being able to have children, only the rich are being able to have nutritious food. It's this weird generational ebb and flow of like, I believe like our parents were workaholics, the boomers, the older Gen Xers. They were the boxers from Animal Farm. They were, I'm gonna work, and hopefully one day I'll get a payout. And then now they're the ones that are retired, that are sitting on the couch watching TV because they're literally just brain rotten because they're so burnt out from the woes of capitalism. And then it's us seeing our parents get divorced. We don't want to get married. We don't want to have children. It's this weird ebb and flow where now it's only a luxury to be a stay-at-home mom and cook and teach your kids. And it's just so strange.
Let's get into the comments.
A lot of the rich specifically become food influencers, which is interesting considering the historical relationship between food status and wealth. I've always said money buys you more time. Time is the luxury here. The movie and time was literal.
One thing people always point out about Nara Smith, Ballerina Farm, Emily Mariko is how they are making food from scratch. Do you know how long it takes to learn how to make sourdough? Days, weeks, months. Like, Thorstein Veblen was right.
Athletics have an obvious advantage over the classics for the purpose of leisure class learning, since success as an athlete presumes not only a waste of time, but also a waste of money, as well as the possession of certain highly unindustrial archaic traits of character and temperament.
Emphasis on the waste. So whenever Nara Smith says, my toddler requested a PB&J sandwich, so I start baking the bread, blending up peanuts for the peanut butter, and then heating up berries and sugar to make jam. That is a play on how much time she has, how much privilege she has to be able to do this. And honestly, she knew it was ridiculous, which would make it entertaining and rare and viral. Okay? And we ate it up. Nara is a professional marketing girly. She knew we would eat it up. And another thing about Nara Smith, and I said I will not tolerate any Nara slander, but something that I didn't really see people talk about much was how her kids' names are weird because they're yet another class signal. Okay, like people were wondering, like,
Oh my god, like why would she give them these weird names? How'd they get a job? Imagine going to work and then your boss calls you a weird name.
like be so for real. These children will not be working regular jobs, okay? Their parents are literal high fashion models. So they'll probably be in a creative field where their unique names will help them stand out. Like they're not gonna worry what Dan in accounting will call them, okay? Like be so for real. Like, do you see how everything is a class signal? Next comment.
This is such a good conversation. You're so right. Luxury is time now because us poors can't afford the chill.
And this gets me to the main point of today's class. The reason why it is so important to make the distinction that Nara Smith, Ballerina Farm, Emily Mariko are not trad wives, that they are just rich, is so that we can move on to the next conversations. Okay, like what does it say about us as individuals that we are pining over happy homemaking content? What does it say about us as a society that we are classifying grocery hauls as luxury purchases?
Nobody finds it dystopian that people's idea of luxury right now isn't even luxury shit. It's somebody being able to go to the grocery store and get a full cart and call it a grocery haul. And people in the comments like, oh, must be nice. I wish I could afford food like that. And that's the luxury content that's being branded to us. Food and basic necessities and being able to do shit like take a bubble bath or go to the park in the middle of the day. Just basic shit that humans should be able to do is being branded as luxury, and that's crazy.
Okay, it didn't used to be this way. And things are changing. And if there's anything I learned about when things change, it's that we need community more than ever. We may not have all the privileges these influencers have. We may not have the exact privileges that our friends have, but we have each other. And we can share certain privileges with each other. And one of those is the privilege of knowing, okay? That's all I have for you today. I just wanted to let you know that you have so much inherent worth and value in a world that is hell-bent on devaluing you. And a big thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. Go to rocketmoney.com/manifestelle or click the link in the description below to get started for free. Now get that bag, bestie.